All
guess
right.
rip the Band-Aid off on,
Yep. Yeah, yeah.
who wants to go first? I
Yeah,
mean,
so let's talk draft order, I guess. So because the regular season is over, that means the draft order is set for all of the teams that did not make the playoffs. So there's 18 teams out of 32 that are going to be watching from Cancun. You know, they're taking the express flight to Cabo. It's vacation time. And leading the pack is the Tennessee Titans. They'll have the first overall pick. The Cleveland Browns are second, and the Giants are third. All of them were 3-14, and the Giants they won in the second to last game, and that took them out of it. The Patriots were in the driver's seat. They end up winning a nothing burger game against the Bills, and that puts them in fourth. Jacksonville is 4-13 as well with them, and the Raiders were 4-13. You're the best of the 4-13 teams. How does that make you feel?
really good. We're the team that's gonna be, last to first, next year.
Yeah.
No, I'll go first on the Raiders just because they're the
Mhm.
I don't know how to say it, the highest ranking, lowest ranking team, like, closest to number 1 in the draft order,
At least
I'll put it
for ours, yeah.
for our teams. I actually like the number 6 spot. Vince, Tim, as we've done this podcast, you guys know I'm into the salary cap, I'm into roster construction, I'm into uh just all those different things in how teams get assembled. I know ideally if you're gonna suck, you just want to get the number one pick because you get to pick whatever player you want, or if none of these players really are fulfilling what you it's not the player you want, you can trade out. I just really don't think this is the year that you're gonna get a king's ransom for the number 1 or number 2 spot. Like,
Yeah.
you're not gonna get a big trade up, and that's because the quarterback. Um, these quarterbacks, Shador Sanders and Cam Ward, um, I've been clear that if gun to my head, I'm probably gonna take Cam Ward.
Mhm.
I just think he's a bit more ready for right now.
Yeah.
Long term, I think Shador Sanders I mean, he has the pedigree. We know who his father is, the DNA, the championship pedigree, championship DNA, Vince.
Yep, there it is again.
I think he has that. But there are some immaturity off the field stuff that, I'm not going to go crazy into detail about what happened there. Um, I'm just not sold on these quarterbacks. I'm not sold on this quarterback class as a whole. If I am going to throw, if I feel like I could get somebody in the second or the third round that I'm not going to spend all that capital because I think if you really put apples to apples, if you truly graded these quarterbacks, they're probably mid first round to late first round. And honestly think if you were comparing it to last year's draft class, these guys are in the second and third round. I don't even think they're first round draft pick quarterbacks. I think they're elevated because it is the NFL is a quarterback league. You need to have a quarterback to win. The days of like the Baltimore Ravens when you can win with Trent Dilfer,
Yeah.
I don't know if you're ever going to see that again. I don't know. Never say never, but it's really hard for me to say that a team is going to go and win a Super Bowl with a defense like the Ravens had. It's just hard for me to believe
Yeah.
without the quarterback.
Yeah, Brad Johnson winning the Super Bowl for the Buccaneers, yeah,
Yeah,
against your team. Yeah, that's
crazy.
not happening again.
So I think for the number 6 spot, the Raiders are at number 6. I think that's actually a good spot. I think
A
if
quality O lineman or something like that, yeah.
there's a lot of quality everywhere outside of the quarterback. And you know what? The Raiders need a lot more. Of course, the quarterback is the biggest need. I understand that and I respect that and I agree with it. We need a quarterback. However, I kind of see another Brock Bowers situation. Last year, when the Raiders took Brock Bowers, I was one of the few fans, people who cover the Raiders that was saying, "This is a great pick. Everybody shut the hell up. I understand you wanted Michael Penix to fall to you. Brock Bowers may be the best player in the draft overall, and
Mhm.
he has shown that. That is a weapon.
That is a
Um,
win. Yeah,
that is a win, and for
got that pick right.
and their first 3 picks
Mhm.
have all contributed and have looked really good and are actually starters. So you got 3 guys in your first 3 picks you hit. They're starting, and it looks like they're gonna be starting next year. And then you have guys in the 4th round and beyond that are already contributing. So that it looks like a good draft class last year. This year, I think you're looking at the defensive tackle in Michigan, Mason Graham. I think that guy, if he somehow falls to you at 6, I know you have Max Crosby. I know you spent a lot of money on the defensive line last year. I know you think you're going to get Malcolm Kuntz back. I think the kid from Michigan is a game wrecker. I think he is a position. He's a player that can alter the course of your defense for the better. Um, that would be my number one pick. Behind him would be Carter, the edge rusher. He is also a top flight defensive lineman. And then if both those guys are somehow off the board, I think Ashton Gianti is going to be in there. I think he could fall to you at 6. And that guy, offensively, you're looking at a 3 down running back, a guy who can catch the ball, run the ball, stop on a dime. He could get to the outside. He could break tackles. I mean, you're talking he's a complete running back. And I know people are going to say, you don't take a running back in the first round. This guy is equivalent to somebody like Bijan Robinson. That's what I see a lot. He's able to stay on his feet. He's not a huge guy. He's not the fastest guy, but man, he's twitchy. He's stronger than he looks. He's the best running back in the class this year. And I would say those 3 players, Ashton Gianti, can change your offense. Now you have Brock Bowers, you have a legit running back, you have 1,000-yard receiver and an awesome football player in Jacoby Myers. He just keeps working. Um, and you have other weapons on this offense. The offensive line looks like it's getting better. I think what really hurt the Raiders was offensive coordinator. They did not clearly uh the guy from Chicago, Luke Getzey, was not the first overall pick. They were about to sign Cliff Kingsbury, and we know something got held up in the contract. The
Yeah.
money, the guaranteed money is what I heard. Um, and look at Washington. He ends up with the Washington Commanders. Obviously, he has Jaden Daniels, but the improvement that offense went through over the course of a season, I don't know if that would have happened with the Raiders, but I think they would have been a lot more dynamic, a lot more interesting on offense. And I think their record would have been a hell of a lot better. I don't know if they're a playoff team, but I think they're 3, 4, 5 games better. I think
Yeah.
they're more of a 500 ball club than
Mhm.
drafting number 6. So I actually like do I like the season? No. Where they ended up, I didn't want the number 1 or the number 2 pick because I don't really want any of these quarterbacks. I don't think my personal opinion on the SVT podcast we're watched by millions and millions of people. That's not that's not really a that's not really the quarterbacks that I was after. I'm actually hoping that you take the best player available because the best player available doesn't always go number 1 and number 2. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. Everywhere around this draft class, there's a lot of good players, a lot of depth. And as we move forward closer to the draft, I actually going to be doing a bit more prepared. We're going to do we're going to fix the Raiders. We're going to have the perfect off season, and I'm going to challenge you, Vince, to do the same for the 49ers. So with that, let's segue to the 49ers because they're
Picking
next on the
11th.
draft. They're
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, so,
So
between the Raiders and the Niners, you got the Jets at 7, the Panthers at 8, the Saints at 9, the Bears at 10. The Niners are drafting 11th, and right behind them is the Dallas Cowboys, so the Niners can snipe a couple of, players that the Cowboys may be looking at if, if, the running back you were talking about falls, like, and the Niners decide maybe it's time to look at life after Christian McCaffrey, maybe that's the move they go with. I mean, I kind of like the 11 spot just in terms of game theory because you're going to get somebody in your top 7 on your own draft board at number 11 because teams are going to make picks that you like they're going to draft somebody that you had probably ranked 20 or something like that. Like there's going to be 3 of them there.
It's
So you're going to get
49ers
yeah.
49ers, they're gonna pay Brock Purdy. We just don't
Yeah.
know how much it
Yeah.
is. Brock
Exactly.
Purdy is coming back.
Yeah.
So, you're not getting a quarterback.
Yep.
You're not gonna take a quarterback.
Yep.
Running
I
back, maybe,
depend
and that's
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. I just want to put out the possibility that it we got to see how these offseason workouts go for starters
right.
before we even
But you're gonna have the
yeah.
opportunity there
I
to
think
get
it's
a
gonna
really
be
good
off.
wide receiver,
I think
a
it's gonna be
really
on
good
the line.
offensive tackle.
Yeah, it's gonna be somebody in the trenches. I think I think my priority is probably trying to find the replacement for Trent Williams is probably my number one priority. Because I mean Trent didn't play the full season again this year, and it wasn't because of a suspension. He was hurt, and there was some awfulness as well. But like so it's time to start looking at the line again. You got to start building that up again, and that's where I'm looking. I haven't started my I haven't started the research into the college players yet, so I don't
Sure.
have the knowledge you do at this point. But
Well, my
that's kind of
season
where I would.
ended, 8, 9, 10 weeks ago, whatever it was. So,
Right.
started watching college football early.
That's fair. No, I mean, I just remember 4 weeks ago, like 5 weeks ago, I said that the Niners could, have a little bit of fool's gold, win the next two, get back to 500, and then lose the last three. I was, I was a Debo Samuel dropped touchdown pass basically in that second game of the five from being spot on correct on that. So, my dad in the chat says he bets Brock gets between 40 and 50 million. I think that's probably that's the going rate for a quality quarterback, I think. So and I would say he probably gets closer to 50 than 40. I think he'll land somewhere around 47, 48. The last couple of games, that
I
the
say
last game
49,
specifically,
49,000,000.
49 a year for the 49ers quarterback. You know what? I ain't mad at it. I love the synergy there. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's very numerology of us to get there.
yeah.
I think that's a lovely thing to have. I'm sure. Yeah. So I mean, I'm looking specifically. I started looking at the Niners schedule for next year though,
Yeah,
and
it's,
and
based on
so
current season record, it's
yeah,
actually a favorable.
not just favorable.
Yeah,
We're
it's weak.
talking the opponent's win percentage for 2024 is 32nd in the NFL. For those of
Yeah,
you
it's
at
the weakest
home,
schedule.
there's 32 teams. So the Niners have the easiest schedule on paper next year, which is why I'm actually really excited. So I mean, we already know who the teams are. We just don't know when we're going to play them. So just obviously you have your division opponents, the Rams, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks, and so you'll have a home and away against them. But the Niners are playing the Bears, they're playing the Titans, they're playing the Jaguars, they're playing the Panthers. The Falcons didn't even finish above 500. The Colts are also a game below 500. You got the Saints and the Giants and the Browns as well. So I mean, in terms of good teams, you got to play the Texans and you got to play the Buccaneers and then your division opponents. So I mean,
Yeah,
I'm really
all of those teams that you mentioned, the
yeah
only team it's not that it scares me,
no
but I would think that Atlanta Falcons are gonna make a step forward. They have some cap
right.
space,
Penix looks good.
and Penix
Penix looked
looks
pretty
really
good.
good, and
Yeah.
the Penix to Drake London connection
Mhm.
looks legit already.
Yeah.
So that's the o out of those sorry ass teams that you mentioned, that's the only team that I see that could be a they were a playoff
Could
contender this year.
could be better. Yeah.
They could
Yeah.
be better.
Yeah. I
But I
mean,
don't think the Chicago Bears are they gonna go from 5 and 12 to 12 and 5?
no.
That's
No,
hard
I
for me
mean,
to
I
believe.
I think they could be around 500 as well. Like, I mean, assuming they get the right coach in place, and
Correct.
then
I
Caleb
agree.
Williams is able to flourish under him. So
I
I mean,
I
that's a team that could be better.
I was
But
texting you guys
yeah,
earlier. I did really like, Bryce Young looked since he was benched and
Mhm.
came back.
Yeah.
Um, this past game, he was throwing some balls that were on a rope,
Mhm.
or
Yeah. We didn't get to talk about it because we were off last week, but Ricky Pearsall, he finally showed up.
yeah,
He
he's
had his
flashing.
breakout game.
Yeah,
He
he's
he
flashing.
flashed. I needed, like I said it before, I needed to see a game where he flashed, and god damn it did he flash. So I'm feeling so much better about that pick now. I'm not nearly as trepidatious about it going forward.
Yep.
Look at that SAT word for you kids. Yeah, so I'm just overall I'm feeling a lot better. Obviously I would love to see Dre Greenlaw get his money as well, get signed and stay put. um that'll help with the front seven as well, having Dre Greenlaw play a full season, assuming he's able to play a full season. And obviously the Niners got hit by the injury bug. Maybe in terms of like the when you factor in the number of players on the injury injured reserve list and the quality of those players on the list, I think the Niners got it the worst. I mean, the Lions had more players, I think, hit the injured reserve, but they were mostly on the defensive side, I think, and like they weren't, for the most part, they weren't key contributors.
Right.
So so uh so I'm feeling a little bit better about the Niners' chances next year, because I like when you play that extra game into February, when you're playing into February or playing deep into January for 5 years in a row, that's just basically an extra season, like added onto your schedule. And so having just the one off season to fully recover, I think a lot of the window's still open. I think, and it obviously depends on what moves happen in the off season, who has to go, who stays, who comes in, but I'm still fairly confident that the Niners can bounce back next year, especially with this cake schedule that they got, the fourth place schedule. That's gonna, like, if you took this team this year healthy and gave them this schedule, I think we're talking 14-3, like 13-4, something like that. So yeah, assuming the Niners would have stayed healthy to play this schedule. So I'm feeling very confident that next year they should be back in the playoffs, and we'll just have to see who's around to be in the playoffs at this point. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
based
that's
on that record, I
yeah.
don't think that's crazy based on that record.
Yeah,
I mean, because you
12
look
and
at the
5 is within
49ers
reach.
roster,
Yeah,
a majority of their core players are coming back. Maybe
yeah,
you're walking away or getting rid of Debo Samuel,
yeah.
you know?
Charvarius Ward might be gone too, but that's also possibly through the personal reasons. He's just,
Right,
because he lost his daughter, and
right.
there's actually interviews of him saying that he doesn't know if he'll be able to come back because the bad stuff that happened here in California with
Sure,
him. So I mean, I like, and if it's something like that, I totally get it. Just don't sign with the
for
Cowboys.
sure.
Like
Yeah,
like
no,
don't
for
make me
sure.
hate you by signing with a villain. I mean, if he ends up in pretty much anywhere else, like I'm good, whatever.
Yeah.
Go sign
No,
with
I think the
Denver, go sign
your
with
core players are coming
Broncos.
back.
Yeah.
They shut down Christian McCaffrey. You gotta think he's gonna come back
Mhm.
healthy. You gotta
They
think they're gonna
actually, it was
have the
reported
bubble
earlier
wrap on him.
today, CMC would have been okay to play in the playoffs had the Niners made the playoffs. So, you know, ifs and buts, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I
Yeah.
mean, I do I expect them to be a playoff team next year? Yeah, I expect
Mhm.
them to bounce back because you still have Bosa, you still have Purdy, you still have Christian McCaffrey. I'm assuming
George
Brandon
Kittle's
Ayuk
still
is coming
around.
back,
Yeah.
Kittle's coming back. I'm assuming you're bringing Trent Williams back.
Mhm. As long as
Um,
Ricky Pearsall doesn't get shot again in the offseason, he'll be even
Jesus.
better,
Well, don't hang out in downtown San Francisco. No, I'm
I
just
guess,
kidding.
apparently. Yeah.
Um,
Don't wear the rollie
so
on the arm.
I think
That's
out of all the teams that are, you know, as we're working through this draft, I think they're at number 11, the 49ers should be the team that gets closer to 32.
yeah.
And with all this offseason rest, right, you
Mhm.
should be able to bounce back. So,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's they did let's move on. I mean, who gives a shit who's behind? What's behind me is not important. Italian
well, I
racing
would say
rules.
the Eagles, but we don't know their draft position, so we'll just
Exactly.
keep
Yeah,
going.
yeah. So I mean, as far as the teams that aren't in the playoffs, Cowboys, Dolphins, Colts, Falcons, Cardinals, Bengals, and Seahawks. There's the rest of your order through number 18. Moving on to the Pro Football Hall of Fame announced their finalists, the 15 finalists for to make the Hall of Fame in 2025.
You guys
There's no
already know
set
I'm
numbers.
pissed.
Oh yeah. Jim Plunkett's not on it, and that's go ahead and
It's
say it.
just it's a crime. He's the only two-time winning Super Bowl quarterback to not be in the Hall of Fame. It's just it's malarkey. Luke Kuechly,
Yeah.
he didn't win shit.
Kuechly was a pretty good player, but only for 8 years, and he
He was
wasn't he
he
wasn't
didn't
as good as Patrick Willis was in his 8 years.
he
I'll
didn't
say
win
that.
shit.
Yeah.
Great, he was awesome. Didn't win shit. He
Hmm.
did not win. Uh, Steve Smith, great player. Did he win a Super Bowl?
No, he played in one. I think. Yeah,
Fred
that
Taylor, did
25.
he get one with New England?
No, I don't think so. Wait.
09 to 2000, 2009, 2010, he was with New England. Did
Yeah.
they get one?
I don't think so.
Um,
No, because it was
Willie
like 2011.
Anderson, he
Yeah.
did not get one with Cincinnati. Did he get one with Baltimore? I mean, you
Uh,
got all these guys.
yeah.
Antonio Gates, nothing. He didn't win nothing.
Hmm.
So, I mean, these guys are great individual players, but the only quarterback to win 2 Super Bowls and not be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is just it's just crazy to me.
Yeah,
It's
and I mean, I think at least for 1 year you're gonna have a second one because I don't think Eli gets in on his first ballot, but he's probably gonna end up getting in even though he's a fucking 500 quarterback, but he has the two Super Bowl wins and the two MVPs. So I think I think it's gonna take Eli Manning getting in, and then really the true rabble rousing happens, and be like, what the fuck happened to Jim Plunkett, you know?
yeah.
And I think that's once Eli's in, that opens the gate for Jim Plunkett. Even though Plunkett, I agree, should already be in.
I just
You know,
hope that it's not a situation where Jim Plunkett is inducted, after he's
posthumously.
gone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't want
That
that. I want him to be able to have his speech, have his moment. See the
absolutely.
statue, see the bust.
Yeah.
Um, Adam Vinatieri. Okay. As far as kickers go, sure, but I mean, not many kickers get in the Hall of Fame. Darren Woodson probably should be in, but he's the Dallas Cowboys, so fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Fred Taylor was pretty damn good for a long time, um, but I think Frank Gore should get in before him. If I'm being honest, if we're like, I think Frank Gore's more impressive than Fred Taylor, in my opinion. But we're not. That's not happening this year.